It began with a whisper, an almost imperceptible ripple in the calm waters of the royal family's public image. At first, it seemed like just another minor blip in the ongoing saga of Harry and Meghan's life after stepping away from royal duties. But soon, that whisper grew louder, transforming into an echo that reverberated through palace corridors, drawing the attention of advisors, family members, and, of course, the press. The source of this storm? One of the most treasured and symbolic possessions in the royal lineage, Princess Diana's sapphire ring. And the allegation was as shocking as it was personal. Meghan Markle, Duchess of Sussex, had taken it. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. For anyone familiar with the history of the British monarchy, Diana's jewelry is more than mere adornment. These items carry stories, legacy, and memories frozen in precious metal and gemstone. Each piece is a symbol of love, duty, and the unbroken thread of a family that has spent centuries under the scrutiny of the world. Among them, the sapphire ring was perhaps the most iconic, a gift steeped in memory, worn by Diana during some of her most celebrated public moments, and passed down as a symbol of her enduring presence within the family. For Prince Harry, it was more than a ring. It was a connection to a mother whose life and choices had profoundly shaped him, a tangible reminder of her warmth, her courage, and the love that had guided him through years of personal turmoil. The moment the news, or rather, the revelation, surfaced, it triggered an emotional whirlwind. Prince Harry, known for his fiery temper when it comes to protecting his family, reportedly exploded with fury. Sources close to the family paint a picture of a man torn between disbelief and heartbreak, his anger fueled not only by the act itself, but by what it represented. A perceived betrayal at the heart of his family. This was not simply a theft. It was a symbolic fracture, a line crossed in a world where appearances, loyalty, and trust are held as sacred as the crown itself. And yet, the story is not just about a ring. It is about the collision of legacy and modernity, tradition and ambition, private grief and public spectacle. It is about a family under immense pressure, struggling to navigate personal relationships while the world watches, judges, and speculates. And it is about Meghan Markle, a woman whose every move has been dissected, criticized, and celebrated in equal measure, now at the center of a controversy that threatens to redefine her place in the royal narrative entirely. To fully understand the gravity of the situation, one must step into the shoes of Prince Harry at that moment. Imagine a son already scarred by loss, carrying the weight of his mother's tragic death, now confronted with what feels like a violation of her legacy. Harry has always been fiercely protective of his mother's memory, often clashing with both public perception and private family tensions to ensure Diana's story is honored as he sees fit. For him, the sapphire ring was not a mere accessory. It was a symbol of enduring love, a tangible remnant of a mother whose influence continues to shape every choice he makes, every emotion he carries. The alleged disappearance of that ring was, in his mind, more than an object lost. It was a betrayal cutting to the core of family trust, a disruption of the delicate balance between duty and personal emotion that the royals have spent generations upholding. Palace insiders suggest that the incident occurred during a private, seemingly innocuous moment, a time when the Sussexes were visiting family estates in an attempt to reconnect with the royal fold. The sapphire ring, normally secured under strict protocols, was reportedly moved or taken without notice. Initial confusion quickly morphed into alarm as security personnel, advisors, and close confidants realized the potential implications. Such an event is unprecedented. In the royal household, every heirloom is cataloged, every gift meticulously recorded, and every possession carefully monitored. That a piece as emblematic as Diana's sapphire ring could be unaccounted for sent shockwaves throughout the palace's inner circles. Meanwhile, the press, always eager for a hint of scandal, began circulating cryptic reports. The story evolved almost immediately, growing in magnitude as journalists, social media commentators, and royal enthusiasts speculated on motives, consequences, and the hidden dynamics at play. Stolen heirloom and royal betrayal became trending phrases online, each new article adding layers of drama to an already tense situation. The public, captivated by the intersection of fame, power, and personal vendetta, could hardly contain their curiosity. What had actually happened behind the closed doors of the palace? Was this a simple misunderstanding blown out of proportion, or a deliberate act of defiance that could reshape the public's perception of Meghan Markle forever? For Prince Harry, however, the question was not about public perception, it was about personal betrayal. Close friends report that he was seen pacing in his private chambers, hands running through his hair, muttering under his breath about the audacity of the act. A man known for his composure in public and his charm in social settings now found himself consumed by anger, hurt, and disbelief. Every memory of Diana, every childhood reflection on her warmth and protection, now intertwined with a sense of violation. It was not only the loss of a jewel, but the feeling that the very memory of his mother had been, in some way, encroached upon. The drama deepened when initial conversations with Meghan reportedly escalated into heated arguments behind closed doors. Sources suggest that Meghan's defense was met with increasing frustration from Harry, who struggled to reconcile the person he married with the actions now being alleged. The tension, already palpable within palace walls, created an environment ripe for gossip, speculation, and public intrigue. The household staff, accustomed to maintaining discretion, reportedly found themselves caught in a delicate balancing act, tasked with diffusing emotional outbursts while also adhering to the strict protocols surrounding royal property. Amidst the growing storm, whispers began circulating that the incident was more than just an isolated lapse in judgment. Some insiders speculated that this act symbolized a broader pattern of tension between Harry and Meghan, highlighting deepening cracks in the relationship that were as much about personal differences as they were about the legacy of Diana. The sapphire ring, in this sense, became a symbol not only of love and loss, but of the underlying fragility of familial bonds under intense scrutiny. Its alleged disappearance forced everyone involved to confront questions about loyalty, respect, and the complexities of modern royal life. As the narrative unfolded in real time, public fascination grew exponentially. Every new leak, every snippet of information, and every speculation-filled social media post acted like fuel to a fire that was already roaring. Audiences were captivated not only by the drama itself, but by the human element embedded within: a grieving son, a controversial figure accused of crossing boundaries, and a treasured symbol of love caught in the crossfire. It was a story that combined history, emotion, and scandal in equal measure, a story tailor-made for the global stage, yet deeply personal in its essence. Even as discussions began behind closed doors about possible resolutions, whether through reconciliation, security measures, or simply waiting for public attention to fade, the tension remained undeniable. The incident challenged the very fabric of trust within one of the most scrutinized families in the world. Questions arose not only about the whereabouts of the ring, but about the deeper implications for the Sussexes' future, their standing in the royal family, and the delicate balance between privacy and public curiosity. Beyond the immediate shock and personal grief, the incident sparked a wave of strategic maneuvering within the palace. Advisors, ever mindful of optics, began weighing their options. How should this delicate situation be handled publicly? Should statements be made, or should it be allowed to simmer quietly, a whisper of scandal that might fade with time? Every choice carried risk. Too much attention could fuel a media frenzy, but too little action might embolden speculation and allow narratives to spin out of control. In the halls of power, every decision is measured against the potential impact on the crown's reputation, the stability of familial relationships, and the very narrative of British monarchy itself. Meanwhile, Prince Harry's friends reported that the personal toll on him was visible in his demeanor. Late-night phone calls with confidants revealed a mixture of anger, sorrow, and frustration. Each conversation painted a picture of a man caught between two worlds: the family he was born into, bound by centuries of tradition and expectation, and the family he has built alongside Meghan, a world shaped by modern ideals, public opinion, and a desire for autonomy. The sapphire ring, in its absence, became a flashpoint, crystallizing these tensions in the most personal way imaginable. For Harry, it was no longer about jewels or inheritance. It was about identity, loyalty, and the preservation of memory. Sources suggest that security measures were immediately reviewed. The palace, known for its meticulous protocols, reportedly launched a quiet investigation into the handling of Diana's personal effects. Access logs, personal inventories, and witness testimonies were examined to understand how a symbol so integral to the royal narrative could have moved outside of secure oversight. The scrutiny extended not only to Meghan but to the staff and advisors who had been present during the visit. Every detail mattered, because in situations like these, perception can be as damaging as reality. Public reaction, of course, was instantaneous. Social media erupted with speculation, memes, and outrage. Headlines splashed across tabloids and online news outlets painted vivid scenarios. A beloved heirloom taken, a son enraged, a family in turmoil. Yet beneath the sensationalism lay a deeper fascination, a universal human connection to stories of loss, betrayal, and the sacred objects that bind generations together. For viewers, readers, and fans around the world, this was not just a royal story. It was a reflection of the fragile dynamics that exist in families everywhere, magnified exponentially by wealth, fame, and history. The emotional landscape of the situation grew even more complex when one considers Meghan Markle's own perspective. While reports remain conflicted, some sources suggest that her actions, whether intentional or not, were influenced by pressures known only to her. The life of a royal consort, particularly one navigating public scrutiny as intense as hers, is fraught with expectations and misunderstandings. Each gesture, decision, and possession is weighed against a global audience, often with little room for nuance. In this context, the sapphire ring may have represented something more than an object. It could have symbolized power, continuity, or even a way to assert connection with the legacy of Diana, albeit in a manner that created deep conflict. As the evening of the revelation unfolded, Harry reportedly withdrew into private reflection, seeking guidance from those he trusted most. Counsel from close allies, family friends, and even former aides was sought to understand both the practical and emotional implications of the incident. It was clear that any misstep could have long-lasting consequences, not only for his relationship with Meghan, but also for the perception of the royal family as a whole. In that moment, the sapphire ring was more than a ring. It was a catalyst for reflection, confrontation, and perhaps the first step toward a new chapter in the ongoing saga of the Sussexes. To fully grasp the magnitude of the chaos that erupted, it is essential to understand what this sapphire ring truly represents. It is not merely a jewel. It is a tangible connection to the legacy of Princess Diana, a woman whose life has left an indelible mark on the world and, more personally, on her sons. Worn during iconic public appearances, captured in photographs that are now part of royal history, the ring embodies the elegance, compassion, and enduring spirit of Diana herself. Every facet of its deep blue gemstone, set against the glimmering diamonds that frame it, tells a story, stories of hope, tragedy, resilience, and love. Prince Harry grew up in the shadow of this legacy. His childhood memories were steeped in Diana's influence, from her charitable work and public engagements to her intimate gestures of love for her children. Every token she left behind carried weight, and the sapphire ring was among the most personal. In family circles, it was more than an accessory. It was a symbol of her continued presence, a reminder of guidance and warmth in moments of doubt. Losing the ring, or the possibility that it had been taken, struck Harry not merely as a violation of property, but as a breach of trust, a disruption to the intimate threads that connected him to his mother. The day the incident allegedly occurred began like any other in the Sussex household's efforts to maintain a semblance of normalcy amid public scrutiny. Reports suggest that Harry and Meghan had arrived at one of the family estates under the pretense of a quiet visit. Security was tight, as always, and the presence of advisors ensured that protocol would be followed meticulously. The sapphire ring, however, had a way of transcending the ordinary. It had always been handled with reverence, reserved for ceremonial occasions or moments of personal reflection. Its disappearance, or sudden movement, was immediately noticed by those familiar with its importance. Witnesses, though few, provide a vivid picture of the scene. Staff recall a sense of unease that settled over the estate when the ring's absence was discovered. Conversations whispered in hallways, concerned glances exchanged in the staff quarters, and a flurry of inquiries sent throughout the household all contributed to a growing atmosphere of tension. The palace, known for discretion, had to navigate the situation carefully. The world was always watching, and any misstep could result in headlines that would spiral out of control within hours. Harry's reaction, as sources indicate, was immediate and intense. Anger surged through him, intertwined with profound sadness. He reportedly questioned everyone in close proximity, his voice sharp, his words measured but heavy with emotion. To him, the incident was more than the misplacement of a family heirloom. It was a perceived attempt to sever his connection to Diana. Friends describe him pacing, recalling memories of his mother, reliving moments where her guidance had shaped his life, and feeling an acute sense of violation. The sapphire ring had always been a private, sacred symbol. To imagine it in the hands of someone he loved, yet felt betrayed by, was almost unbearable. Meanwhile, Meghan Markle's perspective adds another layer of complexity to the unfolding drama. Insiders suggest that she was initially unaware of the storm her actions, or perceived actions, would ignite. The life she led as a former actress, now navigating the rigid and often unforgiving expectations of royalty, was fraught with tension. Every gesture was analyzed, every decision dissected by both advisors and the public. In this environment, it is possible that the ring's movement, whether intentional or accidental, was a misjudgment in understanding the symbolic weight it carried for Harry. Yet, perception matters as much as intent, and in this case, the perception fueled a dramatic escalation that would soon dominate headlines. The sapphire ring itself has a storied history, intricately linked to royal tradition. Passed down through generations, it is often cited as a piece that embodies continuity and familial connection. For Princess Diana, it was a gift that reflected both personal affection and the enduring responsibilities of royalty. Its design, the careful selection of gemstones, and the sentimental value attached to it all converged to make it more than a mere ornament. Losing such a piece, or having it moved without consent, is not just a material concern. It touches on matters of identity, memory, and legacy. Within hours of the discovery, the palace's internal communication networks were abuzz with activity. Advisors, security personnel, and family friends were mobilized to address both the practical and emotional dimensions of the situation. Steps were taken to track the ring, confirm inventories, and, crucially, assess the impact on Harry's emotional state. Every detail mattered, from the exact location of the ring's last verified placement to the sequence of events leading up to its disappearance. In a family where history and protocol are paramount, these procedural steps are not just formalities. They are essential to preserving trust, maintaining order, and preventing public scandal. As news of the incident began to leak, the palace faced the delicate task of managing not only the physical security of the ring, but also the narrative that would inevitably reach the public. In the age of instant news and social media amplification, even the most minor of royal missteps can become headline material within minutes. Advisors debated strategies. Should a statement be released, or should the matter remain private until verified? How would this affect ongoing tensions between Harry and other senior members of the royal family? Each option carried risk, as silence could be interpreted as negligence or complicity, while a public acknowledgement could escalate media frenzy. Meanwhile, the press, ever vigilant, had already begun piecing together the story. Journalists pored over public appearances, historical footage, and insider commentary, attempting to craft a narrative that would captivate audiences worldwide. Rumors began circulating, some suggesting that the ring's movement was a deliberate act, while others posited it was a misunderstanding blown out of proportion by media attention. The power of speculation became evident as headlines splashed across tabloids, each one more sensational than the last, fueling public curiosity and deepening the emotional strain on those directly involved. Within the palace walls, Prince Harry's inner circle observed a man torn between duty, grief, and frustration. The ring was more than a jewel. It was a tangible link to his mother, a connection that felt disrupted, even violated. Friends and advisors recall late-night conversations where Harry voiced his anguish, his words a mixture of sorrow, anger, and disbelief. He questioned not only the circumstances, but also the intentions behind the ring's relocation. These conversations reveal the depth of his emotional investment in the ring, underscoring that this was not a matter of material wealth but of memory, respect, and legacy. Sources close to Meghan Markle offer a contrasting perspective. They describe a woman caught in a whirlwind of expectation and scrutiny, navigating the complexities of public life while attempting to maintain personal agency. Her intentions, they suggest, may have been misunderstood, her actions misinterpreted in the heat of an emotionally charged environment. The sapphire ring, laden with historical significance and personal meaning, became a flashpoint for broader tensions between Harry and Meghan, between the couple and the institution, and between private grief and public spectacle. The incident also prompted a review of palace security protocols, particularly concerning personal effects of historical and sentimental value. Access logs, staff records, and previous inventories were examined to determine how such an object could be moved without immediate detection. Even minor lapses in protocol were scrutinized, with advisors seeking to ensure that history would not repeat itself. In the highly controlled environment of royal estates, every movement of a personal item is documented meticulously, and any deviation from standard procedure raises questions about oversight, responsibility, and trust. Emotionally, the sapphire ring acted as a catalyst, bringing unresolved tensions to the surface. Harry's connection to his mother, already a deeply personal and sometimes painful source of reflection, became intertwined with contemporary family dynamics and the pressures of public life. The ring, in its absence, symbolized not only a missing link to Diana, but also the fragility of trust within the family unit. How do you reconcile love, loyalty, and expectation when an object, a single, cherished jewel, becomes the center of conflict? This question haunted the prince as he navigated the early stages of confrontation and emotional reckoning. Meanwhile, the broader public was enthralled. Social media platforms were flooded with commentary, speculation, and debate. Fans of the royal family dissected every detail, comparing the incident to previous controversies, while others expressed empathy for the emotional stakes involved. Polls and online forums revealed divided opinions, with some sympathizing with Harry's anger, others attempting to understand Meghan's perspective, and still others relishing the unfolding drama. This mix of intrigue, empathy, and speculation highlights the powerful intersection of personal tragedy and public fascination, a dynamic that the royal family has navigated for generations. As the hours unfolded, Harry confronted Meghan directly, sources indicate, in what was described as a tense and emotionally charged exchange. Voices were raised, not in anger alone but in desperation, as the prince struggled to reconcile his feelings of betrayal with the love he still held for his wife. Every word carried weight, every gesture magnified by the symbolism of the sapphire ring. For Harry, this was no ordinary marital disagreement. It was a clash of emotional worlds, a collision between the past he cherished and the present he navigated with caution and care. The alleged confrontation reportedly took place in a private sitting room, where the couple had previously shared many intimate conversations. Friends who later spoke anonymously described a scene filled with raw emotion, hands trembling, eyes brimming with tears, and an atmosphere thick with tension. Harry is said to have recounted memories of his mother, pointing to the sapphire ring as a living reminder of her love and guidance. Meghan, on her part, expressed frustration at being misjudged, caught in a situation she may not have fully anticipated. The conversation, intense and private, reflected the deeper emotional currents that the ring had stirred, currents that went far beyond material possession, touching on legacy, loyalty, and the profound bond between mother and son. Outside the walls of the estate, the media began to seize on the story, sensing both drama and human interest. Headlines speculated on the severity of the rift, the motivations behind Meghan's actions, and the potential fallout within the royal family. Commentary ranged from sympathetic to sensational, each narrative shaping public perception in real time. Royal watchers analyzed body language from past appearances, compared statements from insiders, and debated the implications for the couple's relationship. In doing so, they inadvertently magnified the stakes, transforming a deeply personal and private matter into a global spectacle. At the heart of the matter was more than the physical sapphire ring. It was the symbol of trust and connection it represented. For Harry, every jewel Diana possessed carried meaning, serving as a reminder of her guidance and love. The ring's disappearance, or the belief that it had been taken, was interpreted as a rupture in this chain of connection. Friends and aides describe him walking the estate grounds in quiet contemplation, grappling with a mix of anger, sadness, and disbelief. In these moments, the weight of his mother's legacy pressed heavily upon him, intertwining grief with the intensity of the present confrontation. Furthermore, the incident raised questions about the dynamics of trust and perception within the Sussex household. How does one navigate love, loyalty, and misunderstanding when the stakes are both deeply personal and publicly visible? Meghan's alleged actions, whether perceived as deliberate or accidental, ignited a storm of emotion that resonated across the estate and beyond. Observers note that such conflicts are rarely isolated. They ripple outward, affecting relationships, decision-making, and even public messaging. In the context of a family under constant scrutiny, even minor incidents can trigger major consequences. By the end of the first day, the atmosphere had shifted dramatically. The sapphire ring, once a quiet emblem of personal memory, had become a focal point of family tension, media speculation, and public fascination. Harry, exhausted but resolute, began to plan next steps, weighing emotional needs against public image and personal principles. Meghan, equally affected, grappled with the intense scrutiny, the interpretations of her actions, and the inevitable commentary from those outside the private sphere. The stage was set for a conflict that would continue to unfold in ways both visible and hidden, with the sapphire ring at its symbolic core. As night fell over the estate, there was a moment of eerie stillness. The grandeur of the royal surroundings contrasted sharply with the turmoil inside. It was in that quiet, reflective space that Harry and Meghan were forced to confront not only the immediate issue, the movement of a precious heirloom, but also the broader implications for trust, family, and the legacy of a woman whose influence continues to resonate. The sapphire ring, glittering with both beauty and history, had inadvertently catalyzed a storm, one that promised to test the limits of love, loyalty, and personal conviction in the days and weeks to come. The first inkling that something was amiss came not from the press, nor from an overt confrontation, but from the quiet observation of the royal household staff. In a residence where every item is catalogued and meticulously maintained, the absence of a significant piece of jewelry was immediately noticeable. The sapphire ring, with its deep, royal blue hue and storied history, had always held a position of prominence, not merely as a piece of adornment, but as a symbol of connection, memory, and legacy. The staff, trained to notice even the most minute irregularities, reported the missing ring to senior aides, triggering a cascade of internal investigation that would set the tone for the chaotic events that followed. Initial efforts focused on retracing the ring's movements. Security logs were combed for anomalies, and every individual with access to private quarters was questioned. In a palace steeped in centuries of tradition and protocol, the disappearance of a personal artifact of such emotional significance was unprecedented. Sources describe a palpable tension among the staff as they attempted to reconcile their duties with the unprecedented nature of the situation. The missing ring became a catalyst for anxiety and speculation, amplifying the natural pressures of serving a high-profile family whose personal lives were always subject to scrutiny. Simultaneously, whispers of the ring's disappearance began to circulate among the inner circle. Trusted aides and advisors debated the possible explanations. Was the ring misplaced, a victim of simple human error, or had it been deliberately taken? Each scenario carried weighty implications. Misplacement would suggest a lapse in protocol, raising questions about competence and oversight. Deliberate removal, however, would imply intentionality, a potential breach of trust that could have profound repercussions for familial relationships. These discussions, though private, were laced with urgency as the palace recognized the inevitability of media attention and public curiosity. The discovery prompted an immediate review of past incidents involving heirlooms and personal effects. Advisors revisited archival records, looking for any precedent that might guide their response. While the royal household had experienced numerous minor misplacements over the years, none involved an item of such symbolic and emotional weight. The sapphire ring was not simply a jewel. It was a tangible connection to Diana, Princess of Wales, a woman whose influence and memory continued to shape the family's dynamics. Its absence was therefore interpreted not only as a security lapse, but as a disruption to the family's emotional equilibrium. Adding to the complexity was the nature of Meghan Markle's relationship with the royal family. Having entered the household under intense public scrutiny, she had long been the subject of commentary regarding her integration and influence. The sudden disappearance of the ring, occurring during a period of heightened tension between Harry and other senior family members, was immediately interpreted through a lens of suspicion by some aides and insiders. While no definitive conclusions were reached initially, the very suggestion of deliberate action ignited internal debate and fueled speculation that would soon spill into the public domain. In parallel, Prince Harry's own reaction was swift and intense. Upon learning of the missing ring, he reportedly experienced a range of emotions, from disbelief to anger, punctuated by moments of profound sadness. The ring, more than any other personal possession, embodied his connection to his mother, the memories of her love, and the guidance she had provided throughout his life. Its absence was therefore experienced as a deeply personal affront, a disruption not only of material possession, but of emotional continuity. Friends close to Harry recount late-night discussions in which he revisited memories of Diana, reflecting on the importance of preserving her legacy and the emotional resonance of her belongings. Compounding the emotional weight was the timing of the discovery. It coincided with other internal pressures, including ongoing negotiations about public appearances, media narratives, and family disputes. The simultaneous convergence of these stressors heightened the stakes, creating a volatile environment in which every action, perceived slight, or misunderstanding could escalate rapidly. In such a context, the disappearance of the sapphire ring assumed a significance far beyond its intrinsic value, symbolizing broader tensions and unresolved conflicts within the family. Meanwhile, palace security undertook a meticulous review of the premises. Surveillance footage, access logs, and personal movement records were scrutinized in an effort to reconstruct the ring's last known location. Investigators paid close attention to patterns, anomalies, and deviations from normal protocol, analyzing everything from cleaning schedules to personal interactions. The aim was twofold: to recover the ring and to determine whether its disappearance resulted from negligence, miscommunication, or deliberate intent. Each piece of evidence was cataloged and examined with painstaking care, reflecting the high stakes of both security and family trust. At the same time, social dynamics within the household began to shift subtly but noticeably. Staff members, though loyal and professional, could not help but speculate on the implications of the missing ring. Conversations carried an undercurrent of tension as individuals weighed their loyalty to different family members against the potential consequences of missteps. These internal dynamics, while largely hidden from public view, would later be cited by insiders as a contributing factor to the escalation of conflict surrounding the incident. Public perception, though initially uninformed, would soon catch up with the events unfolding behind palace walls. Leaks, often originating from staff or peripheral observers, began to trickle into media channels. These fragments of information, half-formed, speculative, and sensationalized, began to construct a narrative of intrigue, tension, and betrayal. Headlines began to appear hinting at discord between Harry and Meghan, the disappearance of a cherished heirloom, and the possibility of intentional misconduct. While unverified, these stories would rapidly shape public discourse, creating pressure on the palace to respond in a manner that balanced discretion with accountability. The discovery of the ring's absence also triggered reflections on historical precedent. For decades, royal heirlooms had served not only as symbols of status, but as tangible connections across generations. Each piece carried its own story, often intertwined with personal relationships, political alliances, and family memory. The sapphire ring, in particular, was emblematic of Diana's enduring presence, her influence continuing to echo through the lives of her children. Its sudden disappearance prompted introspection among family members and advisors alike, raising questions about how personal artifacts should be safeguarded in a modern context while respecting both privacy and emotional significance. As the investigation deepened, Prince Harry took an active role, insisting that every possible lead be pursued. He reportedly met with senior security personnel and private aides to review not only the factual details, but also the emotional context of the situation. Harry's insistence on personally overseeing aspects of the inquiry reflected both the depth of his attachment to the sapphire ring and the symbolic weight it carried. Friends describe him pacing through corridors, retracing movements, and questioning the sequence of events, not only to recover the ring, but to restore a sense of personal equilibrium that had been violently disrupted. Meanwhile, Meghan Markle's response to the mounting tension was complex. While public appearances suggested composure, insiders report that privately, she experienced a whirlwind of emotions ranging from frustration to defensiveness. The speculation surrounding her role in the ring's disappearance was reportedly challenging for her to navigate. Close aides described private conversations in which she expressed bewilderment at the intensity of the reaction and at the implications being drawn from the situation. In these moments, the couple's communication appeared strained, each processing the unfolding events through very different emotional lenses. The palace's legal and advisory teams were simultaneously brought into the fray. Their task was not only to manage the investigation, but also to anticipate potential fallout from media scrutiny and public opinion. Lawyers and advisors debated strategies for addressing questions of accountability, privacy, and the protection of family reputation. They recognized that, in an era of relentless media coverage and social media amplification, even a minor internal incident could escalate into a global spectacle. Their deliberations underscored the dual nature of the crisis. The sapphire ring was a personal and emotional matter for Harry, yet its disappearance had become a public issue, threatening to impact the family's broader image and relationships. Within the palace, the search extended to every conceivable location the ring might have been placed. Jewelry boxes were examined, personal drawers scrutinized, and even the less conventional storage areas explored. Staff members involved in the search describe a methodical, almost obsessive process, reflecting both the object's value and its symbolic weight. Each moment spent searching was accompanied by a mixture of hope, frustration, and anxiety, as the absence of the ring loomed larger with each passing hour. As the day progressed, the ripple effects of the discovery became more evident. Conversations within the royal household began to shift in tone, reflecting an undercurrent of suspicion and heightened vigilance. Staff members, though professional and committed, could not ignore the tension, which influenced interactions and decisions throughout the estate. Observers note that the psychological impact of the missing sapphire was as significant as its physical absence. The ring's disappearance created an emotional vacuum, highlighting vulnerabilities and interpersonal dynamics that had previously been latent or unexamined. Reports also emerged that Harry had confided in a select circle of trusted friends and family members. These conversations, private and emotionally charged, reveal the intensity of his distress and the significance he placed on the ring as a tangible link to his mother. Friends recount that he reflected not only on the material loss, but also on the implications for trust and intimacy within his marriage. Each conversation emphasized the depth of feeling, the weight of legacy, and the personal nature of the emotional turmoil being experienced. The first signs of media attention began subtly but unmistakably. Royal correspondents, vigilant for any indication of internal discord, picked up on subtle cues during public appearances and statements. While nothing had yet been officially confirmed, speculation began to mount. Social media posts, insider leaks, and off-the-record comments coalesced into a narrative that positioned the missing ring as a dramatic point of conflict between Harry and Meghan. By the evening, what had started as a private concern within the palace walls had begun to take on the dimensions of a public story, adding pressure and complexity to an already delicate situation. In this charged environment, the palace faced a dilemma: how to recover the ring and resolve the emotional impact without exacerbating public speculation. The strategies adopted combined careful internal communication, discreet inquiry, and heightened security measures. Staff were briefed on the importance of discretion, while security teams were instructed to meticulously document movements and interactions. The balance between solving the problem and maintaining privacy became a central theme, highlighting the challenges of managing personal crises in a family constantly under the gaze of the world. By the end of the day, the missing sapphire ring had become more than a lost heirloom. It had become a symbol of deeper issues: trust, legacy, communication, and the pressures of life in a royal household. The event set the stage for the conflicts and emotional developments that would unfold in the days to come, serving as a catalyst for revelations, confrontations, and decisions that would shape the narrative around Harry, Meghan, and the enduring shadow of Princess Diana's legacy. The atmosphere within the Montecito residence had shifted from tense anticipation to outright emotional volatility. Prince Harry, already burdened by the pressures of public scrutiny and the lingering weight of his mother's memory, found himself engulfed by a surge of anger and disbelief upon realizing the extent of the situation. The missing sapphire ring was no longer merely a misplaced object. It had transformed into a symbol of betrayal, a tangible representation of fractured trust, and a catalyst for confrontation. Friends close to Harry recount that in the early hours of that evening, he was pacing the corridors, muttering under his breath, and repeatedly revisiting the sequence of events in his mind. Each thought seemed to intensify the sense of urgency and frustration as he wrestled not only with the practical implications of the ring's absence, but with the deeper emotional resonance it carried. By mid-afternoon, Harry had resolved that a direct confrontation with Meghan Markle was unavoidable. The decision was driven not solely by suspicion, but by a profound need for clarity and accountability. In his eyes, the ring represented a bridge to his late mother, a connection that had been sacred and inviolable. The idea that it could have been removed, intentionally or otherwise, elicited feelings of helplessness, a challenge to the security of his personal world that could not be ignored. Sources suggest that he rehearsed the conversation mentally, weighing words and tone, aware that this confrontation could define the dynamics of their relationship in ways that extended far beyond the immediate issue. When the moment arrived, it was charged with tension. Meghan, reportedly aware of Harry's mounting frustration, anticipated the conversation but was unprepared for the intensity of his emotional state. Witnesses describe a room heavy with silence, punctuated only by the controlled breathing and subtle movements of two individuals bracing for conflict. Harry began the dialogue with a measured tone, carefully outlining the discovery, the security review, and the significance of the missing ring. He emphasized not only the material value of the sapphire, but its symbolic and emotional importance, particularly in connection to Princess Diana's legacy. The gravity of his words, combined with the depth of his personal attachment, set a tone that left no room for casual dismissal or misinterpretation. As the conversation progressed, the tension escalated. Harry's voice, though controlled, carried an undercurrent of frustration and vulnerability. He expressed feelings of hurt, confusion, and betrayal, articulating the emotional weight of the ring's disappearance and the perceived breach of trust. Meghan, on the other hand, responded with a mixture of defensiveness and incredulity. Her perspective, as insiders report, was that the situation had been blown out of proportion, that the ring's absence might have been an innocent oversight, and that the intensity of Harry's reaction was disproportionate to the circumstances. The clash of perspectives created a charged atmosphere, where emotion and logic intersected in a high-stakes exchange that neither could easily navigate. Observers describe Harry's demeanor as shifting between deep sorrow and searing anger. The emotional outburst was not purely about the physical object, but about the implications it carried for their relationship and their ability to maintain trust amidst external pressures. He posed direct questions, seeking not only answers, but reassurance that the sanctity of shared trust had not been violated. Each response from Meghan, carefully considered yet tinged with defensiveness, seemed to either exacerbate or diffuse the tension in unpredictable ways. Friends close to the couple note that these moments were emotionally exhausting. revealing vulnerabilities and sensitivities that are rarely visible to the public. The conversation soon turned to the broader context surrounding the incident. Harry referenced past conflicts, public scrutiny, and the relentless media attention that had marked their time in the United Kingdom. He expressed frustration at the way private matters seemed to spiral into public spectacle, connecting the missing ring to a larger narrative of perceived intrusion, misrepresentation, and relational strain. Meghan, for her part, emphasized her perspective on the pressures of adapting to royal life, the challenges of constant public observation, and the difficulties of navigating familial expectations. This interplay of personal and external pressures amplified the intensity of the confrontation as each attempted to assert their viewpoint while grappling with the emotional stakes involved. At several points, the conversation reached a point of near escalation. Harry's insistence on accountability clashed with Meghan's insistence on perspective, resulting in sharp exchanges and heightened emotional expression. Insiders recount moments where Harry's voice quivered with frustration and grief, while Meghan's responses reflected a mixture of defensiveness, fear of mischaracterization, and genuine perplexity. The room, though physically unchanged, seemed charged with energy, a silent witness to the collision of emotion, history, and the weight of legacy. Throughout the confrontation, memories of Diana played a persistent role. Harry referenced the importance of preserving her legacy, recounting anecdotes and experiences that highlighted the enduring influence of his mother on his values, decisions, and sense of identity. The sapphire ring, imbued with personal and symbolic significance, became a focal point for these reflections. Friends note that Harry's emotional intensity was heightened by a profound desire to protect this connection, to ensure that nothing, even a momentary lapse or misunderstanding, could compromise the tangible link to his mother's memory. Meghan, while navigating the conversation, reportedly attempted to contextualize her position, explaining perceived misunderstandings and offering explanations that emphasized intent rather than consequence. Sources close to the household describe a complex interplay of emotion, reason, and defensiveness, as each party sought to reconcile their perspectives within a shared space of tension and vulnerability. The dialogue, while confrontational at times, was also deeply revealing, exposing the layers of relational complexity that exist within the high-pressure environment of public life, personal legacy, and private expectation. By the end of the confrontation, both parties reportedly experienced a sense of emotional exhaustion. The conversation, intense and revealing, had clarified certain points while leaving others unresolved. Harry's attachment to the sapphire ring remained a central concern, intertwined with broader questions of trust, respect, and relational stability. Meghan's responses, while measured and considered, reflected the difficulty of navigating an environment where private actions are continuously scrutinized and interpreted through multiple, often conflicting, lenses. The emotional outburst had served as both a release and a spotlight, illuminating tensions, vulnerabilities, and unresolved issues that would continue to influence their interactions in the days and weeks to come. This pivotal moment marked a turning point in the unfolding saga. The confrontation was not simply about a missing piece of jewelry. It was a reflection of the pressures, legacies, and emotional complexities that define their lives. It set the stage for subsequent developments, including intensified media scrutiny, further internal investigation, and the ripple effects that would shape public perception. In essence, the missing sapphire ring had catalyzed a moment of emotional clarity and raw confrontation, revealing the depth of feeling, the intensity of attachment, and the stakes involved when personal history, symbolic artifacts, and contemporary pressures collide. The Montecito residence, sprawling and meticulously maintained, had always been a place of relative calm and careful order, especially for a household of such high-profile figures. However, the events surrounding the missing sapphire ring had disrupted that equilibrium, sending ripples of tension through the staff, who were accustomed to balancing discretion with efficiency. From the housekeepers to the security personnel, everyone felt the weight of the incident, knowing that even minor missteps could be magnified by media speculation or, worse, by the public perception of the royal family. Insiders reveal that in the immediate aftermath of Harry's confrontation with Meghan, the staff gathered in small clusters, exchanging whispers, anxious glances, and fragmented updates about what had transpired. The collective unease was palpable, as each person tried to reconcile loyalty, professionalism, and personal curiosity while operating under the intense gaze of scrutiny. Several staff members had long-standing relationships with Prince Harry and were deeply aware of the symbolic and emotional significance of the sapphire ring. They had seen firsthand the reverence Harry held for his late mother's possessions, and the thought that any item associated with Diana could be mishandled was almost unimaginable. Sources describe housekeepers discreetly checking room inventories, re-examining jewelry storage, and even questioning the chain of custody of personal items to ensure that no mistakes had occurred on their watch. Their loyalty to Harry was unwavering. Yet there was also a pragmatic understanding that the incident had the potential to escalate into a full-blown media storm. Many whispered about the irony of private domestic operations becoming entangled with global headlines, highlighting the unique pressures of serving a high-profile household. The security team, already trained to anticipate extraordinary situations, responded with a heightened sense of alert. Protocols were reviewed, access points scrutinized, and digital logs cross-checked to track movements within the residence. Surveillance cameras, which had previously been monitored only as a standard precaution, were suddenly a focal point of attention. Insiders report that several hours were spent replaying footage, noting who entered and exited certain rooms, and confirming that all procedures had been correctly followed. Security personnel were acutely aware that even a minor error could be perceived as negligence in public narratives, and the team worked tirelessly to reinforce their operational integrity while also managing internal stress. Household staff, particularly those responsible for daily maintenance and logistics, experienced a mixture of apprehension and confusion. Many had developed informal bonds with Meghan Markle and her personal routines, yet the confrontation with Harry had created an atmosphere of uncertainty. Some staff members were unsure how to navigate the competing expectations of both parties. Should they prioritize Harry's concerns, given the emotional weight of the incident, or remain neutral, focusing solely on their duties and avoiding becoming entangled in interpersonal conflicts? This tension played out in quiet corridors and behind closed doors, where whispered conversations revolved around what had been said, what actions were expected, and how best to maintain both professionalism and personal composure. Interestingly, the incident also revealed subtle dynamics among the staff themselves. Certain senior housekeepers reportedly took charge of coordinating responses, ensuring that all areas of the residence were double-checked and that any potential evidence or items related to Diana's legacy were carefully accounted for. Junior staff members, meanwhile, expressed heightened anxiety about inadvertently worsening the situation or being misinterpreted in a scenario where every movement could carry weight. Observers suggest that this dynamic underscored not only the hierarchical structure of the household, but also the profound influence that high-stakes situations can have on morale and cohesion. Communication within the household underwent a significant shift. Previously, informal updates sufficed to keep everyone aligned, but in the wake of the sapphire ring incident, staff members adopted more structured reporting. Daily briefings were initiated to ensure everyone was aware of developments, and logs were maintained for all relevant activities. Sources indicate that even mundane tasks, such as the movement of household items, were meticulously documented to prevent any further misunderstandings. This approach was not merely about accountability. It was a mechanism to maintain order and provide reassurance to all parties involved that operations were proceeding without error or oversight. Meanwhile, the psychological impact on the staff should not be underestimated. Many individuals who had devoted years to working within royal or high-profile households are trained to manage pressure. But the combination of personal loyalty, emotional attachment, and the intense public interest created an environment of acute stress. Reports suggest that several employees experienced sleepless nights, moments of near panic when small items were misplaced, and heightened sensitivity to even minor occurrences around the estate. The realization that their professional actions could have personal ramifications for the Duke of Sussex added layers of emotional complexity to their work. As news of the confrontation slowly began to leak to select media outlets, staff reactions evolved further. Some felt a sense of responsibility to protect the household's reputation, engaging in discreet conversations to ensure that no details were inadvertently revealed. Others grappled with the inevitability that the incident would become public, raising concerns about how it might affect the family's image, the perception of Meghan Markle, and Harry's emotional state. This duality, between protecting privacy and anticipating public scrutiny, created an environment where staff members were constantly evaluating their decisions, words, and movements, fully aware that their actions could be interpreted through multiple lenses. Beyond the immediate logistics and security concerns, the incident also prompted reflections among the staff about the broader emotional landscape within the household. Housekeepers and aides who had served for years noted the distinct intensity of Harry's attachment to items associated with Princess Diana, observing that such attachments were not merely sentimental but tied to deeply personal memories, grief, and ongoing struggles with public identity. Meghan's involvement in the incident, whether intentional or accidental, added another layer of complexity, raising questions about trust, boundaries, and the evolving dynamics of their relationship. Staff members, while trained to maintain discretion, often found themselves caught in the emotional crosscurrents, balancing empathy for Harry's grief with the professional necessity of neutrality. Interestingly, the incident also highlighted the intricate network of roles within the household. From the chef managing meal preparations amidst heightened tension, to the maintenance team ensuring the estate's numerous security features were operational, every member had a part to play in responding to the crisis. The cohesion of this network was tested, with individuals stepping into roles beyond their usual scope to maintain order, verify details, and provide support where needed. Observers note that such incidents, while disruptive, often reveal the hidden resilience and adaptability of staff accustomed to high-pressure environments. By the evening, a semblance of order was restored, but the underlying tension lingered. Staff members continued to monitor movements, maintain meticulous logs, and anticipate further developments. The missing sapphire ring had not only triggered an emotional outburst from Harry, but had also catalyzed a chain reaction within the household, affecting operations, relationships, and morale. For the staff, the incident was a reminder of the unique pressures of serving high-profile individuals, where private matters intersect with public attention, and where seemingly minor details can carry profound significance. Throughout the day, observers noted that staff members displayed remarkable professionalism despite the intense emotional climate. Their ability to maintain discretion, adhere to security protocols, and provide support to both Harry and Meghan demonstrated a level of commitment and composure that often goes unnoticed by the public. At the same time, the incident revealed the human side of these roles. The stress, the personal investment, and the emotional labor required to navigate a household defined by visibility, legacy, and unrelenting expectations. In conclusion, the reactions of the Montecito household staff offer a rare glimpse into the internal mechanics of a high-profile estate in crisis. Their responses, ranging from meticulous logistical checks to emotional vigilance, underscore the intricate balance between professionalism, loyalty, and personal sensitivity. The missing sapphire ring, far more than a piece of jewelry, became a catalyst for a complex interplay of operational, emotional, and psychological factors. It illuminated not only the significance of Harry's attachment to his mother's legacy, but also the extraordinary demands placed on those who serve in close proximity to figures of immense public interest. The staff's actions, choices, and emotional navigation became an essential element of the unfolding narrative, setting the stage for further developments in a story that would continue to captivate both insiders and the wider world. Almost immediately after news of the confrontation over Diana's sapphire ring emerged, the global media machine went into overdrive. In today's interconnected world, where every whisper can become a headline within minutes, the Montecito incident was a story tailor-made for sensational coverage. News outlets, tabloids, and social media platforms scrambled to report the unfolding drama, each vying for exclusive angles, quotes, and photographs that could capture the public's imagination. From London to Los Angeles, journalists dissected every detail, speculating not only on the whereabouts of the ring, but also on the implications for Harry and Meghan's already scrutinized relationship. The speed and intensity of the media reaction underscored how a private domestic disagreement could escalate into a global news event in a matter of hours. Media analysts immediately recognized the story's virality potential. The combination of a royal connection, a historically significant piece of jewelry, and an interpersonal conflict involving two of the most high-profile figures in modern celebrity culture created the perfect storm. Headlines ranged from the straightforward, such as Prince Harry confronts Meghan over missing Diana ring, to more sensationalist iterations like Royal Chaos in Montecito. Sapphire scandal rocks the Sussex household. Television networks ran continuous coverage, dissecting body language, past interviews, and previous reports about Harry and Meghan's relationship. Commentators speculated about whether this incident signaled deeper fractures between the couple, framing it as a potential turning point in a narrative that had already captivated the world. Social media amplified the frenzy in unprecedented ways. On Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, users shared reactions ranging from shocked disbelief to sharp humor. Memes proliferated, some depicting exaggerated dramatizations of the confrontation, others referencing past controversies surrounding the couple. Hashtags related to the Sapphire ring trended globally, ensuring that even those who did not follow traditional news sources were exposed to the story. Influencers, celebrity commentators, and independent bloggers weighed in, offering opinions, theories, and personal interpretations that blurred the line between fact and speculation. The immediacy of social media created a feedback loop where public engagement drove further reporting, which in turn fueled even more online discussion. Insiders suggest that the leak of information from within the household was the initial spark for the media frenzy. While staff members were expected to maintain discretion, even subtle comments or unintended slips could be picked up by journalists, sometimes through intermediaries. Once the first few reports surfaced, other outlets felt pressure to follow up, either to maintain credibility or to compete for readership. Sources indicate that this environment of high stakes and intense competition led to rapid dissemination of both verified facts and speculative rumors. By the end of the first day, the story had transformed from a private domestic incident into a global conversation, with millions engaging in debates, reposting content, and analyzing every public appearance of Harry and Meghan for signs of tension or emotional distress. International coverage also reflected cultural perspectives and regional interests. In the United Kingdom, the story resonated with ongoing fascination with the royal family and their personal lives. Commentators drew connections to Diana's enduring legacy, highlighting how the sapphire ring symbolized not only a tangible connection to the late princess, but also the emotional bonds and expectations Harry carried forward. In the United States, where Meghan Markle's celebrity status was already well established, media coverage emphasized the drama and intrigue, often framing the incident as a high-stakes domestic dispute between two powerful figures. In both regions, journalists and pundits examined the implications for future public appearances, philanthropic projects, and even potential legal considerations. The role of paparazzi and freelance photographers cannot be overstated in this scenario. Although the Montecito residence is heavily secured, professional photographers maintain vigilance in nearby public areas, hoping to capture images that could accompany stories. Even brief glimpses of Harry or Meghan leaving or entering the estate were meticulously documented, with images rapidly distributed to global news networks. This constant visual surveillance heightened the sense of scrutiny and amplified the pressure on both individuals. Observers noted that even mundane gestures, hand movements, expressions, or the choice of attire were analyzed and interpreted as potential signals of ongoing tension or reconciliation. Expert commentary became a significant feature of coverage. Royal historians, psychologists, and celebrity analysts were brought in to provide context, offering insights into how personal disputes might influence public perception and media narratives. Some experts highlighted the symbolic importance of the sapphire ring, emphasizing that for Harry, it was not merely a piece of jewelry, but a conduit for memory, mourning, and familial legacy. Others focused on Meghan's position, discussing the pressures faced by someone navigating both royal expectations and public celebrity. These analyses added depth to reporting, helping audiences understand the broader significance of the incident beyond the immediate drama. As the story continued to evolve, rumors began to surface that added complexity and tension. Some reports suggested that the confrontation had escalated further behind closed doors, with claims of heated exchanges and emotional outbursts. Other speculation centered around the potential involvement of legal advisors, with pundits debating whether the incident could lead to formal disputes over personal property or family heirlooms. While not all of these claims were substantiated, their circulation contributed to the growing sense of chaos and uncertainty surrounding the household, feeding public curiosity and engagement. Interestingly, the media frenzy also prompted reactions from extended networks connected to the couple. Friends, former colleagues, and acquaintances were contacted for commentary, further expanding the circle of individuals whose statements could influence public perception. Some offered sympathetic perspectives toward Harry, emphasizing his emotional connection to Diana's legacy, while others provided context about Meghan's challenges and pressures. These additional voices created a multidimensional narrative where multiple perspectives intersected, providing audiences with a mixture of factual reporting, personal insight, and conjecture. The coverage began to have tangible impacts on the couple's daily life. Sources indicate that both Harry and Meghan were acutely aware of the media spotlight, carefully considering every public statement, movement, and appearance. Advisors reportedly recommended limiting public interactions and maintaining a strict media protocol to prevent further escalation. However, the pervasive nature of social media and global news coverage meant that even private actions could quickly become public knowledge. The resulting pressure created an environment in which the couple had to navigate both personal conflict and public scrutiny simultaneously, a challenge that intensified emotional strain and required meticulous attention to strategy and presentation. Public reaction was a mixture of empathy, judgment, and fascination. Fans and supporters expressed concern for Harry's emotional well-being, often emphasizing the deep connection he maintained with Diana's memory. Critics, meanwhile, questioned Meghan's intentions and highlighted past controversies, framing the incident within a larger narrative of tension between the couple. The diversity of responses reflected the polarized nature of public discourse surrounding high-profile figures, where emotions, biases, and pre-existing narratives often influenced interpretation and engagement. By the third day of coverage, media outlets had compiled extensive timelines of the events, analyzing every known interaction, statement, and movement. Infographics, video montages, and digital timelines illustrated the unfolding drama for audiences, reinforcing engagement and providing a sense of immediacy. Analysts noted that the story's endurance in public discourse was driven not only by the emotional stakes, but also by the symbolic weight of the sapphire ring and its connection to Princess Diana. The combination of historical significance, celebrity intrigue, and domestic conflict created a narrative that captivated both casual readers and dedicated followers of royal news. In conclusion, the media frenzy surrounding the Montecito confrontation highlights the extraordinary power of modern journalism and social media in shaping public perception. What began as a private dispute over a family heirloom quickly transformed into a global spectacle, with each detail dissected, analyzed, and debated by millions. The involvement of experts, the circulation of rumors, and the rapid dissemination of information underscored the intricate dynamics of contemporary media, where privacy is fleeting and public fascination can amplify even the most personal of conflicts. For Harry, Meghan, and the Montecito staff, the consequences extended beyond the immediate incident, influencing daily life, public strategy, and the broader narrative of their relationship. The sapphire ring, while small in physical dimensions, became a catalyst for global attention, symbolizing the intersection of memory, legacy, and modern celebrity. The Montecito incident over Diana's sapphire ring left more than just headlines in its wake. It triggered an intense emotional storm within the Sussex household. While the media frenzy played out for the world to witness, behind the closed doors of their Californian estate, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle grappled with feelings that extended far beyond the immediate confrontation. The theft, or perceived theft, of a family heirloom struck at a deeper nerve, touching on issues of trust, respect, and the lingering shadows of loss and legacy. For Harry, the ring was not just a jewel. It was a tangible connection to his late mother, Princess Diana, whose memory remained central to his sense of identity and emotional equilibrium. To see it removed without his knowledge felt like a violation of both memory and trust, triggering a cascade of emotional responses that were intensely private yet impossible to keep entirely hidden in the age of global surveillance. Within hours of discovering the ring's disappearance, Harry reportedly experienced a mix of anger, disbelief, and profound sadness. Insiders describe a man torn between a desire to confront the situation directly and a need to control his emotional response for the sake of public perception. The weight of his mother's legacy compounded the sense of betrayal. To Harry, Diana represented compassion, integrity, and resilience, and any act that seemed to disregard her memory could not be taken lightly. Friends close to Harry indicated that he retreated into a period of introspection, reviewing past experiences, family dynamics, and the history of the sapphire ring itself. It was not merely an object. It carried the weight of decades of family sentiment, emotional milestones, and personal symbolism. For Meghan, the emotional fallout was equally complicated but manifested differently. Reports suggest that she experienced frustration, defensiveness, and a sense of being misunderstood. Sources describe a woman navigating immense scrutiny, both from her partner and the world at large, feeling pressure to justify actions while also coping with the invasive nature of the media storm. To Meghan, the ring may have represented more than a family heirloom. It was part of the household's shared narrative, an item that had entered her life as a symbol of marriage, partnership, and continuity. However, differing perspectives on its significance created an emotional disconnect between her and Harry, a gap that quickly widened as private emotions collided with public attention. The first confrontation in the Montecito residence reportedly lasted several hours, marked by heated exchanges and moments of quiet tension. Observers close to the situation indicated that Harry's language conveyed deep emotional pain, punctuated by reminders of Diana's influence on his values and expectations. Meghan, meanwhile, reportedly sought to explain her actions, emphasizing intentions, misunderstandings, or miscommunications that may have led to the escalation. The dynamic between the two revealed a complex interplay of personal history, emotional attachment, and mutual frustrations. It became evident that this was not merely about a piece of jewelry. It was a conflict layered with unresolved grief, differing perspectives, and the pressures of living a life under relentless public scrutiny. Psychologists familiar with high-profile couples suggest that incidents like the sapphire ring confrontation can act as flashpoints for deeper issues. For Harry, who has openly discussed the enduring impact of his mother's death, the ring symbolized both memory and accountability, a reminder that legacy and responsibility are never far from the surface. When such symbols are challenged or removed, feelings of betrayal can intensify, triggering emotional reactions that are both immediate and lingering. For Meghan, the confrontation may have stirred feelings of being unfairly judged, constrained by tradition, or misinterpreted in intentions, creating emotional friction that required careful navigation to prevent lasting damage to the relationship. Friends and staff within the household describe a period of tension following the incident. Walks through the estate became moments of silent reflection rather than casual conversation, with both parties carefully monitoring interactions to avoid further escalation. Advisors were reportedly called in to mediate, offering guidance on conflict resolution, emotional regulation, and public management of the situation. Even simple daily routines, from shared meals to household management, became charged with emotional undercurrents, reflecting the intensity of the unresolved conflict. Sleep patterns, according to sources close to the couple, were disrupted. Harry reportedly struggled with recurring thoughts about Diana, the significance of the ring, and the perceived disrespect of its removal. Meghan, balancing both the incident and the media coverage, faced heightened anxiety and feelings of isolation, amplified by the knowledge that every private interaction could be scrutinized or leaked. The combination of personal grief, interpersonal tension, and global attention created a unique pressure cooker, testing both resilience and communication skills. Experts note that such emotional fallout can have cascading effects on decision-making and interpersonal dynamics. Harry's responses reportedly fluctuated between protective instincts and heightened sensitivity, reflecting the dual role of grieving son and public figure. Meghan, navigating her own emotional landscape, had to reconcile intentions with perceptions, constantly evaluating how actions would be interpreted both by Harry and the outside world. The interplay of personal attachment, symbolic value, and public scrutiny made the resolution of the conflict particularly challenging, requiring careful negotiation, empathy, and strategic communication. Over the following days, small steps toward reconciliation were reportedly attempted. Private conversations aimed to clarify intentions, express emotions, and reaffirm mutual respect. Yet, even as dialogue progressed, the presence of external pressures, the media frenzy, social media speculation, and global public interest continued to weigh heavily on both individuals. Insiders describe a delicate balance, where emotional healing was intertwined with the need to manage public perception, an intricate dance that required both vulnerability and strategic caution. The ripple effects extended beyond the couple. Staff members, previously peripheral to the emotional dynamics, found themselves navigating an environment charged with tension and anticipation. Household routines were adjusted to accommodate both privacy and security, ensuring that sensitive conversations could take place without inadvertent exposure. Even the physical arrangement of shared spaces was reconsidered, allowing moments of solitude while maintaining necessary communication channels. The emotional fallout, therefore, was not confined to Harry and Meghan but extended to the ecosystem surrounding them, influencing daily operations, staff interactions, and the overall atmosphere of the residence. In reflecting on the emotional fallout, it becomes clear that the Montecito confrontation was not simply a dispute over a family heirloom. It represented a collision of personal grief, historical legacy, relational dynamics, and public scrutiny. The Sapphire ring, though small and material, acted as a catalyst for broader emotional exploration, highlighting vulnerabilities, priorities, and unresolved tensions. Both Harry and Meghan were forced to confront not only their feelings for each other, but also the enduring influence of Diana's memory, the expectations of public life, and the challenges of navigating intense media scrutiny. The intensity of these emotions had a lasting impact. Friends suggest that Harry emerged with reinforced convictions about protecting personal and familial legacies, while Meghan reportedly gained heightened awareness of the sensitivities surrounding symbolic objects and emotional triggers within the household. While difficult and emotionally charged, the confrontation catalyzed moments of reflection, mutual understanding, and cautious steps toward repair. The lessons gleaned from this period would shape future interactions, influence decision-making, and deepen awareness of the emotional complexities inherent in their unique circumstances. In conclusion, the emotional fallout from the Sapphire ring incident illuminates the intricate interplay of grief, legacy, and relational dynamics in the lives of high-profile individuals. What appeared as a singular event, a confrontation over a ring, revealed layers of emotional intensity, vulnerability, and personal history that extended far beyond the immediate moment. For Harry and Meghan, the experience underscored the challenges of balancing private emotions with public expectations, highlighting the enduring significance of memory, trust, and symbolic objects in shaping both personal relationships and public narratives. The disappearance of Diana's sapphire ring from the Montecito residence did not just ignite emotional turmoil. It quickly raised pressing legal questions that reverberated through royal advisors, legal experts, and the Sussex household itself. Royal heirlooms are not simply personal possessions. They carry immense historical, financial, and symbolic value. These items are often governed by complex inheritance laws, family trusts, and legal stipulations that can make even minor disputes a potential catalyst for protracted litigation. In the aftermath of the ring incident, conversations among lawyers, estate planners, and royal aides intensified as they evaluated the possible consequences of the sapphire ring being removed, whether intentionally or inadvertently, from Harry's possession. At the heart of the legal discussion was ownership. While Prince Harry inherited many of Diana's personal items, the precise legal categorization of each object can vary significantly. Some items are considered private property, passed down through personal wills or explicit gifts. Others remain part of the broader estate, bound by trust agreements that dictate their usage, transfer, or sale. In the case of Diana's engagement ring, originally designed by Garrett and Company, an iconic jewelry house, and famously chosen by Charles for Diana, it is widely understood that the ring was bequeathed to Harry after Diana's passing. Yet legal experts note that the terms of such inheritances are rarely straightforward. Disputes can arise over intent, documentation, and the definitions of possession, particularly when items move across international borders, as this ring did when brought from the United Kingdom to the United States. Another layer of complexity emerged regarding potential criminal implications. While theft within a private household is treated differently from public theft, any allegation of unauthorized removal could technically fall under criminal investigation if one party believed the other acted with intent to deprive them permanently. Legal insiders suggest that had Harry or his representatives filed a formal complaint, local law enforcement in California could have initiated an inquiry, examining circumstances, witness statements, and evidence. However, given the status of the individuals involved, such an approach would have been unprecedented and fraught with diplomatic and procedural complications, involving considerations of privacy, media exposure, and potential public backlash. Civil liability also loomed as a critical concern. A civil suit could potentially be filed for conversion or misappropriation of personal property, particularly if Harry's legal team perceived the act as deliberate. Conversion, in legal terminology, refers to the unauthorized taking or use of someone else's property, and it can carry significant financial penalties if adjudicated in a court of law. Lawyers consulted by insiders reportedly assessed the value of Diana's sapphire ring not merely in terms of its market price, which could easily reach hundreds of thousands of dollars, but also in terms of its sentimental and historical significance, factors that could influence potential damages in litigation. Sentimental value, though intangible, is often argued in court through expert testimony, historical context, and precedent, emphasizing the irreplaceable nature of certain family heirlooms. Complicating the matter further was the potential involvement of insurance policies. High-value jewelry, especially items with royal provenance, is frequently insured under specialized policies that outline coverage for theft, loss, or damage. Any claim regarding the ring's removal would require detailed documentation, verification of circumstances, and potentially even forensic investigation to establish the chain of custody. Insurers might have been reluctant to process claims without unequivocal evidence, adding a layer of bureaucracy and procedural hurdles that could escalate tensions and prolong resolution. The mere possibility of insurance disputes amplified the stakes, creating a scenario in which personal relationships and legal strategy intersected with financial considerations. The international dimension of the incident also carried implications for legal jurisdiction. While the ring was physically located in Montecito, California, questions could have arisen about the applicability of UK inheritance laws, the Sussex family trust provisions, and international legal precedents regarding cross-border movement of personal property. Legal experts note that such cases often require coordination between multiple jurisdictions, involving estate attorneys, probate courts, and, in rare instances, diplomatic channels. For Harry and Meghan, the logistical and legal challenges of resolving a dispute over a high-profile royal heirloom on foreign soil added layers of stress and strategic complexity. Precedents within royal families demonstrate the seriousness of disputes over heirlooms. Throughout history, conflicts over jewelry, artwork, and other assets have occasionally escalated into public legal battles, leaving reputations tarnished and relationships strained. Examples include disputes within European royal families, where inheritance disagreements over crowns, tiaras, and personal artifacts have prompted litigation lasting years. While these conflicts are often shielded from public view, media coverage inevitably follows, intensifying pressure on the parties involved. For Harry and Meghan, the global spotlight added a sense of urgency to resolving the situation quickly, yet discreetly, without exacerbating the story for public consumption. Legal advisors reportedly explored multiple resolution strategies. One approach was informal negotiation, involving mediation and direct discussion to establish ownership, intent, and plans for return or retention of the item. Another strategy involved formal documentation, in which the parties could acknowledge possession rights and agree to legally binding stipulations preventing further disputes. Experts note that the success of either approach relies heavily on trust, transparency, and a willingness to compromise, qualities that were complicated by the emotional intensity of the situation. With the sapphire ring intertwined with grief, memory, and family legacy, reaching an amicable resolution required careful balancing of both legal and emotional considerations. The possibility of public exposure further heightened the stakes. A legal dispute over a royal heirloom could attract significant media attention, potentially fueling damaging speculation, misinterpretation, and sensational reporting. For the Sussexes, who had long expressed frustration with media intrusion, the prospect of a public legal battle was daunting. Lawyers and advisors reportedly worked to craft communication strategies, contingency plans, and privacy safeguards to protect the couple while navigating potential legal actions. The intersection of law, media, and public perception created a high-pressure environment in which every decision carried consequences both in court and in public opinion. Additionally, the scenario highlighted the broader legal and ethical considerations surrounding royal property and personal belongings. While Diana's legacy is universally revered, disputes over items associated with her life inevitably raise questions about stewardship, responsibility, and moral obligation. Legal experts emphasize that such cases extend beyond mere ownership. They touch upon ethical frameworks regarding respect for memory, trust between family members, and the broader societal expectation that high-profile figures honor heritage while balancing personal agency. The Montecito incident, therefore, was not just a legal challenge but a test of character, judgment, and commitment to values cherished by both the royal family and the global public. Ultimately, the legal implications of the sapphire ring incident serve as a vivid reminder that personal property in high-profile families is rarely simple. Emotional, historical, financial, and jurisdictional factors converge, creating a complex web of potential conflicts and resolutions. In Harry and Meghan's case, the situation required a multifaceted approach, blending legal strategy with emotional intelligence, public relations savvy, and a careful understanding of historical and symbolic significance. The resolution of this dispute would not only affect the immediate parties, but also set precedent for how royal heirlooms are treated in extraordinary circumstances, influencing both legal practice and public perception for years to come. The moment news of the missing sapphire ring broke, the global media machinery swung into overdrive. Headlines around the world splashed Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's names across front pages, online news platforms, and social media feeds, each competing to outdo the other with the most sensational interpretation of the unfolding drama. The story of Diana's iconic engagement ring. Already an object of immense historical and emotional value, being allegedly taken from Harry's Montecito residence became an instant spectacle. Newsrooms in London, New York, Los Angeles, and beyond mobilized teams of reporters, fact-checkers, and royal correspondents to piece together a narrative that would captivate audiences hungry for intrigue, scandal, and insight into the private lives of one of the most scrutinized couples in the world. Within hours, the story spread across traditional and digital media alike. Television networks interrupted regular programming with breaking news segments, complete with dramatic visuals of Diana's ring, archival footage of her engagement, and expert commentary on the implications of the alleged theft. Headlines varied in tone. Some framed the incident as a domestic dispute with legal undertones, while others painted it as a betrayal of trust that struck at the heart of the royal legacy. Social media amplified the frenzy, with hashtags trending globally as fans, critics, and casual observers debated the motivations, ethics, and consequences of the situation. Twitter threads dissected every possible angle. Instagram accounts posted side-by-side comparisons of the ring over the years, and TikTok creators produced dramatized reenactments, often blending fact with speculation in ways that captivated millions. Royal commentators quickly weighed in, analyzing the incident from both historical and contemporary perspectives. Some noted that royal jewelry disputes are not unprecedented, citing past controversies in European monarchies where tiaras, necklaces, and ceremonial artifacts became points of contention within families. These commentators emphasized that the combination of emotional attachment and substantial monetary value makes heirlooms like Diana's sapphire ring particularly sensitive. The discussions often highlighted the tension between private ownership and public symbolism. While the ring was a personal gift to Harry, its association with Diana elevated it to a global cultural artifact. Every media outlet sought to balance factual reporting with the dramatic flair necessary to hold audiences' attention, walking a delicate line between news and entertainment. The reactions of the public were as polarized as they were intense. Many viewed Meghan's alleged actions with disbelief and anger, framing the incident as an act of selfishness or opportunism. Commentators on social media suggested that taking the ring, whether intentional or accidental, symbolized a breach of trust within the royal family, echoing broader narratives of perceived tension between Meghan and other family members. Others, however, sympathized with her, questioning whether the situation had been misrepresented or blown out of proportion. This divide fueled heated online debates, with supporters and detractors trading arguments that blended opinion, conjecture, and snippets of alleged insider information. Some even connected the ring's disappearance to broader narratives about privacy, media scrutiny, and the challenges faced by public figures attempting to navigate personal life under constant observation. The coverage extended far beyond traditional reporting into investigative journalism and opinion pieces. Newspapers published in-depth articles detailing the provenance of the ring, tracing its journey from Garrard and Company to Diana's engagement and finally into Prince Harry's possession. Legal experts were interviewed extensively to analyze potential repercussions and provide context for the complex estate and inheritance laws that govern royal belongings. Psychologists and cultural commentators weighed in on the emotional stakes involved, discussing the significance of family heirlooms in preserving memory and identity. Opinion columns explored the broader implications of the alleged incident, examining how such disputes can shape public perception of the monarchy and influence the reputations of those involved. The story also sparked international interest, with coverage appearing in countries as far afield as Australia, India, Canada, and Japan. Royal enthusiasts and media outlets abroad dissected the saga, often drawing parallels with their own histories of royalty and aristocracy. The universal themes of trust, betrayal, and inheritance resonated across cultures, fueling a global conversation that extended well beyond the borders of Montecito or even the United Kingdom. Video segments were subtitled and shared internationally, social media commentary translated into multiple languages, and forums dedicated to royal affairs experienced surges in activity. The narrative of Diana's ring had become a worldwide phenomenon, a symbol of intrigue that captured attention across continents and time zones. The frenzy also revealed the power of digital platforms in shaping narrative and opinion. Online articles with clickbait titles attracted millions of views, while videos offering exclusive insights garnered unprecedented engagement. Algorithms amplified content based on engagement, ensuring that the most dramatic, speculative, or controversial interpretations were often seen first by audiences. This feedback loop intensified the public spotlight on Harry and Meghan, creating pressure that extended beyond media coverage into personal and social spheres. Every comment, post, and share contributed to an ecosystem in which rumors could spread rapidly. Factual reporting competed with speculation, and the couple's reputations became subject to constant reevaluation. Amidst the coverage, social media personalities and influencers seized upon the story as well, crafting narratives that mixed dramatization with commentary. Reaction videos, TikTok reenactments, and Instagram posts offered personalized takes, often blending humor with shock value. Influencers speculated on possible motives, dramatized scenarios, and even provided mock courtroom analyses, engaging audiences with interactive polls and discussion prompts. This participatory element magnified the story's reach as audiences became both consumers and contributors, further embedding the saga of Diana's ring into popular culture. Traditional media outlets were forced to adapt to the speed and intensity of digital engagement. Television anchors referenced trending social media topics. Newspaper articles included embedded tweets and viral videos. And online publications updated stories multiple times a day to reflect new developments or reactions. Journalists navigated the tension between speed and accuracy, recognizing that every update could influence public perception and escalate controversy. Media ethics and responsible reporting became recurring points of discussion, particularly given the high-profile nature of the individuals involved and the potential consequences of misinformation. Importantly, the global coverage underscored the symbolic weight of the incident. Diana's sapphire ring was not merely a piece of jewelry. It represented legacy, memory, and the continuing fascination with her life and relationships. Public reactions often reflected nostalgia, reverence, and a sense of moral expectation. Many saw the protection of the ring as a duty not just to Harry or Meghan, but to Diana's memory itself. The alleged removal of the ring challenged these perceptions, creating emotional responses that blended historical reverence with contemporary intrigue. Media narratives capitalized on this dynamic, highlighting both the human and symbolic stakes involved in the unfolding story. As media coverage intensified, Harry and Meghan found themselves navigating a complex landscape of scrutiny, commentary, and speculation. Insider reports suggest that the couple sought to manage the narrative carefully, balancing public statements with private discussions and legal advice. Their communication strategy aimed to address the situation without inflaming public opinion or inviting additional legal complications, a delicate task in the context of a relentless media cycle. Advisors reportedly emphasized the importance of timing, tone, and consistency, recognizing that any misstep could be amplified exponentially in the global spotlight. Ultimately, the media frenzy surrounding the sapphire ring incident exemplifies the extraordinary pressure faced by public figures in the digital age. The combination of historical significance, emotional weight, and global interest created a perfect storm of coverage, one that blurred the lines between news, commentary, and entertainment. Audiences worldwide became intimately engaged in a narrative that was at once personal, symbolic, and highly public, demonstrating the power of media to shape perception, influence discussion, and heighten drama. The saga of Diana's sapphire ring, viewed through the lens of global coverage, highlights how modern media dynamics can transform even a single object into a cultural phenomenon with lasting implications. Inside the storied walls of Buckingham Palace, the news of Diana's sapphire ring allegedly being taken from Prince Harry's Montecito residence created waves of shock, disbelief, and intense concern. The royal family, long accustomed to public scrutiny and scandal, faced a uniquely personal and emotionally charged situation that struck at the heart of family loyalty and legacy. Sources close to the palace reported that conversations moved quickly from private family quarters to emergency meetings with senior advisors, reflecting the gravity of the matter and the potential ramifications it could have on both familial relationships and public perception. The ring was not merely an item of jewelry. It represented a deeply sentimental connection to Princess Diana, the memory of her life, and the symbolic continuity of royal heritage. The alleged incident therefore resonated not just as a breach of trust between two individuals, but as a potential disruption to a cherished narrative that the monarchy had worked for decades to preserve. King Charles, whose relationship with Prince Harry has long been characterized by moments of tension and estrangement, reportedly experienced a mixture of anger and sorrow upon hearing the news. Senior aides described the king as deeply concerned about both the personal implications for Harry and the broader symbolic significance of the ring. Discussions within the palace emphasized the dual nature of the issue, the emotional impact on family members, particularly those still mourning Princess Diana, and the public optics that could affect the monarchy's standing both domestically and internationally. Legal advisors were immediately consulted to evaluate the possible courses of action, including the recovery of the ring, potential civil remedies, and steps to protect the privacy and dignity of all involved. The palace's communications team faced the delicate task of managing the narrative carefully, ensuring that official statements balanced transparency with discretion while avoiding further escalation of the media frenzy. Prince William, already under intense scrutiny due to the complicated dynamics surrounding his brother and Meghan Markle, was reportedly particularly incensed. Close insiders indicated that William viewed the incident as not only a violation of trust, but also a challenge to the respect owed to Diana's memory. The two brothers, despite periods of estrangement, share a bond forged in childhood experiences, mutual loss, and public duty. The alleged removal of the ring thus threatened to exacerbate existing strains, prompting urgent private conversations aimed at understanding the circumstances and mitigating conflict. Discussions extended beyond mere family matters, with advisors cautioning about how any perceived mismanagement or emotional overreaction could be seized upon by the press, further inflaming public opinion and potentially influencing Harry and Meghan's already precarious reputation. Within the palace, Princess and other senior royals were closely monitoring the situation. Their focus, according to insider accounts, was on balancing familial concern with institutional responsibility. The incident presented an unprecedented challenge: how to respond to a deeply personal family matter that had simultaneously become a global news sensation. Courtiers emphasized the importance of discretion, but the story's viral nature meant that rumors, speculation, and misinformation were spreading faster than official responses could be issued. Every movement, statement, and reaction was scrutinized for meaning, creating an environment of heightened tension and requiring careful coordination between personal advisors and communications professionals. The family's reactions were not only about emotions and symbolism, but also about legal and logistical considerations. Discussions reportedly included whether to involve law enforcement, how to secure the ring, and the potential consequences if the item could not be immediately recovered. The palace's legal team examined precedent for heirlooms and personal property disputes within royal estates, weighing the risks of public litigation against the desire to resolve matters privately. Advisors were particularly aware of the delicate balance required. A strong response risked further media attention, while a passive approach could be interpreted as tacit approval or inaction. Every decision carried weight, both in terms of family relationships and in the court of public opinion. The palace also considered the potential impact on the younger generation, including Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis. Sources suggest that conversations emphasized shielding the children from the stress and drama, while ensuring that they understood, in age-appropriate ways, the significance of family legacy, trust, and respect for personal property. The incident was viewed not just through the lens of immediate conflict, but also in terms of lessons imparted about responsibility, integrity, and the weight of symbolic items passed down through generations. Courtiers reportedly encouraged calm, framing the situation as an opportunity to reinforce family values rather than allowing it to spiral into public spectacle. Media coverage and social speculation added layers of complexity to the royal family's response. Insiders noted that the family was acutely aware of the narratives being constructed externally, and that internal discussions were influenced by the need to anticipate public reactions. The challenge was not merely to manage the emotional fallout within the family, but also to craft a strategy that maintained the monarchy's dignity, minimized reputational damage, and respected the privacy of those directly involved. The delicate interplay between personal grievance and public duty required a level of coordination rarely seen, with aides, legal counsel, and communications experts working in concert to navigate the escalating situation. Reports indicate that there were private attempts at mediation between Prince Harry and other family members. These discussions were described as emotionally charged, with Harry expressing frustration, hurt, and in some cases anger over how the situation had escalated. While details remain confidential, sources suggest that efforts were made to clarify intentions, understand misunderstandings, and reach agreements on how to proceed with the recovery of the ring and the broader handling of the matter. Such interventions highlight the complex dynamics of family relationships in the public eye, where personal grievances must be balanced against institutional responsibility and public perception. Expert commentators on royal affairs noted that the family's reactions reflect long-standing challenges in managing sensitive situations involving high-profile individuals. They emphasized the dual pressures faced by royals, maintaining personal relationships and navigating public expectation. The Sapphire ring, while valuable and historically significant, also represents emotional bonds and intergenerational memory, making its alleged disappearance particularly fraught. Analysts highlighted the uniqueness of the situation. It was simultaneously a legal matter, a family dispute, and a public relations crisis, each layer requiring distinct but coordinated responses. The royal family's reactions illustrate the interplay of emotion, duty, and strategy. Behind the closed doors of Buckingham Palace and other royal residences, the incident prompted introspection about trust, communication, and the challenges of maintaining unity in the face of external scrutiny. Family members were reportedly navigating complex feelings of anger, concern, and a desire to protect Diana's legacy, all while considering the long-term implications for Harry, Meghan, and the institution itself. Advisors emphasized measured, deliberate responses designed to contain the situation, manage public narratives, and preserve familial bonds despite the tension and media spotlight. Ultimately, the royal family's response to the alleged removal of Diana's sapphire ring underscores the intricate balance between personal emotion and public responsibility. Every action, from private mediation to official communications, reflected an acute awareness of the historical and symbolic weight carried by the ring, as well as the necessity of maintaining cohesion, dignity, and legacy amidst unprecedented scrutiny. The incident revealed both the vulnerability and resilience of the family, highlighting the unique pressures faced by individuals who must navigate deeply personal conflicts under the relentless gaze of the world. The alleged disappearance of Princess Diana's iconic sapphire ring did not remain solely a matter of family tension. Almost immediately, the situation escalated into a potential legal quagmire as royal advisors, legal experts, and investigators began evaluating every possible course of action. This was not just a question of retrieving a precious heirloom. The ring was an irreplaceable artifact with immense sentimental and historical value. Its symbolic significance, tied directly to Diana's legacy and the continuity of royal tradition, made its alleged removal an issue that demanded urgent legal attention. Sources close to the palace emphasized that lawyers were convened within hours to assess the implications, analyze ownership claims, and determine the appropriate steps to ensure the matter was handled in accordance with both civil law and the unique protocols surrounding royal property. From the outset, Prince Harry faced a complicated legal landscape. His position as a private citizen living in Montecito, California, meant that U.S. property laws intersected with the unique considerations of international royal heritage. The initial challenge for his legal team was to establish a clear chain of ownership, confirming that Harry had legitimate custody of the ring at the time of the alleged incident. This required gathering documentation, affidavits, and historical records tracing the ring's passage from the royal family to Diana and ultimately into Harry's possession. Legal experts familiar with transatlantic property disputes noted that while ownership was likely clear, the public nature of the allegations complicated matters, as any court proceedings risked turning into a media spectacle that could damage reputations and inflame tensions further. As discussions progressed, palace lawyers explored multiple scenarios. If the ring had indeed been removed without consent, civil claims for recovery of property and potential damages were considered. If the removal was intentional and involved fraudulent representations, criminal implications could emerge, depending on U.S. law and local enforcement policies. Sources indicate that the palace engaged with specialized legal consultants who had prior experience handling cases involving high-profile individuals, stolen or disputed heirlooms, and transnational property claims. The goal was to secure a strategy that would not only recover the ring, but also minimize the risk of protracted litigation that could further tarnish the family's image. One particularly challenging aspect was the intersection of privacy, public interest, and media scrutiny. The sapphire ring was more than property, it was a global symbol. As news outlets began reporting on the alleged theft, legal advisors had to weigh the risks of filing lawsuits publicly versus pursuing discreet investigative channels. Public legal action could potentially force sensitive family details into court records, making them accessible to journalists and commentators. Conversely, delaying legal action or handling matters privately risked perceptions of inaction or secrecy, which could fuel further speculation and criticism. This delicate balancing act required careful consideration of timing, messaging, and procedural tactics, as well as consultation with crisis management specialists skilled in handling high-profile cases. In parallel with legal planning, investigators were deployed to gather evidence and trace the ring's whereabouts. According to sources familiar with the process, private investigators were tasked with reviewing security footage, interviewing staff and associates, and verifying timelines. Every detail mattered, from delivery records to travel logs, and investigators worked meticulously to construct a comprehensive picture of the events surrounding the alleged disappearance. Their work was complicated by the sensitivity of the matter and the need to respect the privacy of all parties involved, requiring a level of discretion rarely demanded in standard property disputes. The potential for lawsuits was further complicated by Meghan Markle's involvement. Her role in the alleged removal of the ring created legal ambiguity, as advisors weighed whether to treat the situation as a private family matter or as a legal issue with actionable claims. Multiple legal theories were considered, including conversion of property, intentional interference with personal property rights, and potential breach of trust. In addition, experts debated the implications of international jurisdiction, given the transatlantic nature of the royal family's residences and the legal systems in play. The complexity of the case underscored the unique challenges faced by the palace when private family disputes intersect with international law, celebrity status, and global public attention. Court filings, should they occur, were expected to be heavily scrutinized. Legal analysts speculated that any documentation presented would be dissected for clues about the relationships and dynamics within the royal family, potentially revealing sensitive details about conflicts, intentions, and interactions between Prince Harry, Meghan Markle, and other members of the monarchy. As a result, the legal strategy emphasized minimizing exposure while maximizing the chances of recovery and restitution. Confidentiality agreements, sealed filings, and strategic communications were all considered as tools to manage both the legal process and the narrative surrounding it. Public opinion, unsurprisingly, played a major role in shaping legal strategy. Lawyers and advisors recognized that the world's attention could influence outcomes indirectly, particularly in cases involving high-profile figures. Social media discourse, media framing, and fan speculation all had the potential to sway perceptions of legitimacy, intent, and fairness. The palace and Harry's legal team were reported to be actively monitoring these conversations, seeking to understand the evolving public sentiment and anticipate possible challenges in court should the matter escalate. In such an environment, every statement, action, and disclosure had the potential to affect both legal proceedings and reputational standing. Complicating matters further was the historical and emotional weight of the item in question. Unlike a standard civil claim, this dispute involved an object with irreplaceable sentimental value. The sapphire ring was not just a personal keepsake. It was intrinsically linked to Princess Diana's memory, Harry's childhood, and the narrative of his mother's legacy. Legal advisors emphasized that any resolution would need to respect these emotional dimensions, balancing the technical aspects of property law with the deeply personal stakes for the family. The tension between legal precision and emotional sensitivity created an unprecedented challenge, demanding creativity, negotiation skills, and strategic foresight. Experts in royal affairs noted that this situation was emblematic of broader tensions within the family. Legal disputes over property are often proxies for deeper issues of trust, loyalty, and legacy. In this case, the alleged removal of the ring highlighted underlying frictions between Prince Harry and other family members, particularly around perceptions of entitlement, respect for tradition, and the responsibilities that come with high-profile status. Analysts suggested that while the legal battle was central to the immediate concern, it also reflected ongoing struggles to navigate complex personal relationships under the relentless scrutiny of the public eye. As investigations continued, there was speculation about potential settlement options. Sources indicated that private negotiations, mediated by legal representatives, could offer a pathway to recover the ring without prolonged litigation. Such arrangements might include confidentiality agreements, restitution, or formal acknowledgments of responsibility. The advantage of this approach lay in its ability to resolve the matter quietly, preserving family relationships and minimizing additional media attention. However, the feasibility of these options depended on the willingness of all parties to engage in constructive dialogue, which, given the heightened emotions and public pressure, remained uncertain. Ultimately, the legal battles surrounding the alleged removal of Diana's sapphire ring revealed the intricate interplay of law, emotion, and public perception. Every decision carried weight, from the initial investigative steps to the consideration of civil or criminal claims. Legal advisors had to navigate complex jurisdictional issues, media scrutiny, and the emotional stakes of a highly personal family matter. Their task was not simply to recover a piece of jewelry, but to do so in a manner that upheld the dignity of the royal family, respected the legacy of Princess Diana, and maintained strategic control over an unfolding global narrative. As news of the alleged theft of Princess Diana's sapphire ring by Meghan Markle reached the public, the story erupted across traditional media outlets and digital platforms alike, creating a firestorm that rapidly spiraled beyond the palace walls. In an era defined by instant news, social media virality, and 24-hour news cycles, the narrative was no longer confined to private family disputes. Every detail, allegation, and speculation became fodder for journalists, influencers, and the global audience eager to consume the latest royal scandal. Headlines across newspapers, television, and online portals painted dramatic portraits of tension, betrayal, and intrigue, emphasizing the gravity of the claim while stoking curiosity and outrage among readers. The media frenzy was immediate, intense, and relentless. Leading newspapers across the United Kingdom were among the first to break the story. The coverage ranged from factual reporting of the alleged incident to interpretive pieces exploring the historical and emotional significance of the sapphire ring. Analysts pointed out that the ring was more than a piece of jewelry. It represented Princess Diana's legacy, Prince Harry's connection to his late mother, and the continuity of royal tradition. Some publications focused on the interpersonal conflict, framing it as a clash between modern celebrity culture and centuries-old monarchy traditions, while others emphasized the legal and security dimensions, reporting on investigative steps taken to recover the ring and safeguard royal assets. Headlines such as "Royal Treasures in Turmoil," "Meghan allegedly takes Diana's iconic ring," and "Harry's anger erupts over stolen heirloom," captured the attention of readers and drove unprecedented engagement across online platforms. Television networks quickly followed suit. News anchors, correspondents, and royal commentators dissected every aspect of the story in live segments, often inviting expert opinions and royal insiders to provide context. In many cases, pundits speculated on the motivations behind the alleged act, offering interpretations that ranged from personal ambition to perceived disregard for tradition. The dramatic nature of the story, combined with the high-profile personalities involved, created an irresistible formula for ratings. Morning shows, evening news programs, and late-night talk shows alike featured segments dedicated to unraveling the allegations, examining security footage, and revisiting Diana's life and legacy to contextualize the importance of the ring. The visual medium allowed viewers to engage not only with the narrative but also with images of the ring, archival footage of Diana, and photos of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, further amplifying the emotional impact. Social media, however, became the true battleground for public opinion. Platforms such as Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook were flooded with posts, comments, memes, and videos dissecting the alleged theft from every conceivable angle. Users quickly polarized into camps, with some expressing outrage at the purported removal of the ring, others defending Meghan Markle by citing her personal struggles and distancing her from broader family conflicts, and still others speculating about potential motives, conspiracies, and behind-the-scenes maneuvers. Viral hashtags like #Diana'sRing, #RoyalChaos, and #Harry vs. Meghan began trending globally, allowing users to track the story, share updates, and engage in heated debates. Influencers and content creators jumped into the conversation, producing commentary videos, detailed timelines, and speculative analyses that often blurred the line between fact and conjecture, further fueling public fascination. Public reactions varied widely. Longtime royal watchers expressed shock and sadness, interpreting the alleged theft as a symbolic violation of Princess Diana's memory and a dramatic escalation of long-standing family tensions. Some viewed the incident as a cautionary tale about the intrusion of modern celebrity culture into royal tradition, highlighting the challenges of managing personal relationships under relentless public scrutiny. Others, particularly younger audiences active on social media, approached the story with a mix of humor and skepticism, creating memes, animated reenactments, and satirical commentary that circulated widely. This combination of emotional investment, moral judgment, and entertainment created a perfect storm that kept the story in public consciousness for days, weeks, and even months after initial reports. Media outlets also explored the psychological dimensions of the story. Psychologists, social commentators, and royal experts weighed in on how the alleged act could affect family dynamics, personal relationships, and public perception. Discussions often centered on themes of trust, loyalty, and grief, emphasizing how the loss of a cherished heirloom could evoke strong emotional responses that extend far beyond material value. Commentators highlighted Prince Harry's unique connection to the ring, rooted in the memory of his mother, Princess Diana, and the impact that the alleged removal could have on his emotional state. These analyses were paired with historical comparisons, examining past incidents involving royal heirlooms, family disputes, and public scandals to provide a broader context. The international dimension of the media frenzy further complicated matters. Coverage was not confined to the United Kingdom. News agencies from the United States, Europe, Asia, and the Middle East reported on the story, often tailoring the narrative to resonate with local audiences. In the U.S., outlets emphasized Meghan Markle's celebrity status and her life in Montecito, blending elements of royal history with the fascination of Hollywood drama. In European publications, the focus often returned to the symbolic and historical aspects of the ring, framing the incident as a disruption to royal continuity and decorum. This global attention intensified pressure on the individuals involved and created a sense of urgency for legal advisors, palace representatives, and family members to respond quickly and strategically. Journalists investigating the story faced unique challenges, particularly in separating fact from rumor. Anonymous sources, palace insiders, and leaked communications contributed to a highly charged information environment, where misinformation and speculation often spread faster than verified details. Fact-checking became a critical aspect of reporting, but even with careful verification, stories were often framed in ways that amplified tension and drama. The combination of confirmed reports, insider commentary, and speculative narratives created a multi-layered media environment in which audiences were constantly exposed to new angles, conflicting interpretations, and provocative imagery. One of the most influential factors in shaping public perception was the role of visual media. Photographs, video clips, and archival images of Princess Diana, Prince Harry, Meghan Markle, and the ring itself were repeatedly circulated, often accompanied by emotional captions and commentary. These visual elements served to reinforce narratives, evoke empathy, and heighten drama, making the story more tangible and emotionally resonant for viewers. For many, seeing the ring itself, or images of Harry and Meghan in the context of the controversy, transformed an abstract dispute into a vivid and emotionally charged story that demanded attention. Traditional news coverage and social media reactions fed into one another, creating a feedback loop that amplified the intensity of the media frenzy. Sensational headlines drove online engagement, while viral social media content attracted the attention of mainstream journalists, prompting further coverage. This cycle created an environment in which every new detail, rumor, or statement had the potential to dominate headlines, influence public opinion, and shape the narrative surrounding the alleged theft of the Sapphire ring. For the palace and Prince Harry, managing the optics of the story became as critical as addressing the legal and personal dimensions, requiring careful coordination of messaging, public statements, and strategic communications. In addition to public fascination, media coverage influenced stakeholders directly connected to the story. Advisors, lawyers, and family members were acutely aware that their actions and statements were being scrutinized not only for legal implications, but also for public reception. Every choice, From whether to engage in negotiations to how to respond to social media speculation, carried reputational consequences. Advisors emphasized the need for careful messaging, transparency where possible, and discretion to avoid exacerbating tensions or inviting further scrutiny. The interplay between media attention and real-world decision-making underscored the power of public perception in shaping the course of high-profile disputes, particularly those involving figures as prominent as Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. Ultimately, the media frenzy surrounding the alleged removal of Diana's sapphire ring highlighted the transformative power of modern news cycles, social media, and global public engagement. What began as a personal family dispute quickly evolved into an international spectacle, with traditional journalism, online commentary, and viral content converging to create a story that captured the attention and imagination of millions. The combination of emotional resonance, historical significance, celebrity involvement, and legal complexity made the story a case study in how contemporary media can magnify private conflicts, influence public opinion, and shape the narrative around events of profound personal and cultural importance. As news of the alleged theft of Princess Diana's sapphire ring spread like wildfire through the media and social platforms, the palace found itself at the epicenter of a crisis that required immediate attention and careful management. Behind the stately doors of Buckingham Palace, conversations that had previously been private, measured, and restrained suddenly became matters of urgency. Advisors, senior royal aides, and legal counsel convened in back-to-back meetings, strategizing how to address the unfolding situation while attempting to protect the integrity of the royal family and manage public perception. The atmosphere was tense, charged with a mix of disbelief, anger, and concern for the personal and institutional ramifications of the alleged incident. Every possible consequence, emotional, legal, and reputational, was weighed meticulously as the palace sought to navigate one of the most challenging crises in recent memory. The first internal reaction centered on Prince Harry. Close confidants of the Duke of Sussex described him as being consumed with a whirlwind of emotions ranging from anger and betrayal to grief and frustration. For Harry, the ring was far more than a piece of jewelry. It was a tangible connection to his late mother, Princess Diana, and an heirloom symbolizing her enduring legacy. Advisors reported that Harry's private quarters had become a space for reflection, punctuated by moments of raw emotion as he grappled with what he viewed as a personal and symbolic violation. Meetings with his private secretary and closest aides focused on evaluating the facts, confirming the whereabouts of the ring, and planning potential courses of action. There was an urgent need to balance emotional responses with strategic considerations, especially as the media coverage escalated and public scrutiny intensified. King Charles III and Queen Camilla faced a parallel set of challenges. As head of the monarchy, Charles needed to consider the implications for royal continuity, the family's public image, and the potential legal ramifications of the alleged removal. Sources within the palace revealed that Charles was deeply concerned not only about the personal dynamics between Harry and Meghan Markle, but also about the broader message the incident sent to the public. Advisors emphasized the importance of maintaining discretion, avoiding hasty public statements, and coordinating with legal teams to address both the security breach and the potential for reputational damage. Queen Camilla, meanwhile, was described as being equally engaged in discussions, particularly in understanding the emotional context and ensuring that the royal household's response upheld dignity and decorum. The couple reportedly held multiple consultations with senior courtiers, emphasizing the need for measured, cohesive communication both internally and externally. Other senior royals were quickly brought into the loop. Princess Anne, known for her forthrightness and pragmatic approach, reportedly expressed a strong desire to protect the family's legacy and maintain public trust. Her counsel focused on framing the situation as a private matter with broader historical significance, reinforcing the importance of discretion while acknowledging the emotional weight carried by Harry. Prince William, on the other hand, was described as experiencing frustration and disbelief. Reports suggest that William grappled with both personal concern for his brother and awareness of the potential ripple effects across the monarchy. He and Charles engaged in multiple strategy sessions to ensure that any responses, whether public statements or private communications, were consistent and reinforced the stability of the royal institution. Legal advisors played a pivotal role behind the scenes. With the sapphire ring considered an asset of historical and personal significance, lawyers reviewed possible courses of action, ranging from negotiation and mediation to formal legal recourse. The palace was acutely aware that any public legal confrontation could exacerbate media scrutiny, fuel speculation, and potentially escalate tensions between family members. Advisors analyzed past precedents regarding royal heirlooms, property rights, and private family disputes to determine the most effective approach. In parallel, palace security conducted internal audits to assess how access to valuable items had been managed and to implement measures designed to prevent further incidents. The legal and security dimensions were intertwined, requiring meticulous coordination to ensure that each step taken was consistent with both royal protocol and contemporary legal frameworks. Communication strategy became another cornerstone of the palace's response. Internal discussions emphasized the importance of controlling the narrative without overtly inflaming public opinion. Spokespeople prepared statements that could be deployed in stages, providing factual updates while carefully avoiding speculation or accusatory language. Advisors recognized the challenge of balancing transparency with discretion, particularly given the intensity of media scrutiny and the rapid pace of social media discourse. Messaging was crafted to emphasize the importance of family privacy, the symbolic value of the ring, and the commitment to resolving the matter responsibly, all while mitigating potential reputational damage. The palace also considered the psychological impact on the family, particularly Prince Harry. Courtiers and psychologists were consulted to ensure that the Duke of Sussex received support during this turbulent period. Sources indicated that private conversations were held to help Harry navigate the emotional complexity of the alleged incident, including feelings of betrayal, grief over his mother's memory, and the public nature of the controversy. Advisors encouraged Harry to weigh his actions carefully, recognizing that any impulsive response could reverberate across media narratives and influence the perceptions of both domestic and international audiences. Interestingly, palace insiders noted a subtle tension between protecting family privacy and managing the public narrative. While there was unanimous agreement that the story should be addressed carefully, opinions varied on the extent to which proactive public communication was necessary. Some advocated for early disclosure to clarify facts, prevent misinformation, and demonstrate transparency, while others recommended a more cautious, behind-the-scenes approach to avoid providing fuel for sensationalist media coverage. The debate reflected the broader challenges the monarchy faces in navigating contemporary media landscapes, where instantaneous global communication intersects with centuries-old traditions of discretion and protocol. The alleged removal of the ring also triggered a broader reassessment of household security procedures. Palace security conducted extensive reviews of access protocols, monitoring systems, and inventory management. Questions arose regarding how a high-value, historically significant item could be removed without immediate detection. Measures were taken to reinforce safeguards, including stricter controls over access to heirlooms, enhanced monitoring of private quarters, and updated inventory tracking to ensure that all valuable items were accounted for at all times. The palace recognized that public confidence in the monarchy could be influenced not only by perceptions of interpersonal integrity, but also by perceived lapses in security and stewardship. Beyond immediate family members, the incident had implications for royal staff. Courtiers, aides, and security personnel found themselves under scrutiny, both internally and in the media. Interviews, internal reviews, and performance assessments were conducted to ensure accountability and identify areas for improvement. Advisors stressed the importance of maintaining morale while addressing procedural lapses, recognizing that the staff's ability to manage daily operations effectively was essential to preserving the smooth functioning of the royal household. Ultimately, the palace response underscored the delicate balance between personal emotions, institutional obligations, and public perception. Behind closed doors, the royal family navigated a complex interplay of grief, frustration, and strategic calculation. Decisions were informed not only by the immediate circumstances, but also by the historical significance of the sapphire ring, the emotional resonance for Prince Harry, and the broader implications for the monarchy's image and legacy. Coordination across multiple domains, legal, security, communications, and emotional support, was essential to managing the crisis while upholding the dignity and stability of the institution. The palace's reaction also reflected an awareness of the global audience. Royal advisors recognized that public scrutiny extended far beyond the United Kingdom, encompassing international media outlets, online communities, and audiences attuned to every nuance of royal life. Each step taken behind closed doors was calculated not only to address immediate concerns, but also to anticipate potential interpretations, questions, and reactions from a public deeply invested in the family's affairs. The interplay between private deliberation and anticipated public perception shaped decisions, messaging, and the overall approach to the crisis. In conclusion, the palace response to the alleged removal of Princess Diana's sapphire ring was a multifaceted endeavor that combined emotional sensitivity, strategic calculation, and rigorous attention to protocol. Behind the closed doors of Buckingham Palace, advisors, family members, and legal experts worked tirelessly to navigate the complex terrain of personal grievance, historical significance, and public scrutiny. The incident highlighted the enduring challenges faced by the monarchy in balancing private family dynamics with the responsibilities of public life, demonstrating that even in the modern age, the intersection of emotion, tradition, and strategy remains at the heart of royal decision-making. As the palace continued to coordinate its response, it became clear that the implications of this alleged act would resonate far beyond the immediate family, influencing perceptions of the monarchy, shaping media narratives, and leaving a lasting imprint on the legacy of both Princess Diana and her son, Prince Harry. The alleged theft of Princess Diana's sapphire ring did not merely ignite emotions within Buckingham Palace. It became a deeply personal affront for Prince Harry, one that demanded both reflection and action. Unlike the carefully calculated